thank you all for coming today to Manatee Tiger Bay's luncheon. My name is Xavier Bailey. I am the president, and I will be your moderator today. First, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance by Edward Bailey, Jr.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. We also like to recognize any veterans or active duty members in the audience. Would you please stand so we can recognize you? Any veterans? Thank you so much for your service. I would just like to recognize a few dignitaries. I did a little bit different today because today our guest is our new superintendent of school. So I thought it would be very important to also recognize some of our educational leaders. We have, of course, our Mayor Jean Brown with the City of Bradenton. Thank you for coming. Mr. Michael Escorcio is the principal of Rogers Elementary. Dr. Karen Holbrook, USF Regional Chancellor, thank you for coming. Dr. Carol Prosfeld, President of State College of Florida. Becky Kness, the CEO of Just for Girls. We also have Carol Kalinda with District 8, Chairman representing Representative Tommy Gregory. Now, I know there's a host of school district members. Can you just raise your hand coming out to support our superintendent? Please give him a round of applause. Thank you so much for all you do. Today, we're going to have a conversation with our new superintendent. I'm going to read some of his bio for you. A deputy superintendent for Seminole County Public Schools from 2021 to 2023. Dr. Wysong was responsible for leading K-12 instruction and organizing strategic action across district departments and schools. Prior to becoming deputy superintendent, Dr. Wysong served Seminole County as executive director for instructional excellence and system equity through 2021 through 2020 to 2021, He was also the executive director of education, pathways, and strategic partnerships through 2016 to 2020, Director of Education Pathways and Strategic Partnerships 13 to 2016. He was also coordinator of Race to the Top 2011-2013. He served in Seminole County Schools since 2007, an A-rated district located northeast of Orlando. Seminole schools are home to more than 63,000 students. Earlier in his career, Wysong was a social studies teacher and debate coach. Oh, we got to invite you back for a debate. That would be fun. Followed by Dean of Students from 2007 to 2008. He was also an assistant principal at Lake Brantley High School from 2008 to 2011. Wysong earned a doctorate degree and specialist degree in educational leadership from the University of Central Florida, as well as a master's in social studies education and a bachelor's of arts with honors in political science and history from the University of Florida. And now to add to his bio, the new superintendent of Manatee County Schools. Please give him a round of applause as he comes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking a little time out of your day to be here, and it's great to meet all of you. This is day 15 for me on the job, and I am loving every hour here in Manatee County. This is a beautiful community. It's exciting to be in a county where people are flocking Growth is always exciting, and the outreach from employees, from community leaders, from 501c3s in Manatee has just been wonderful. And so I'm truly honored and blessed to be with you. I was, as you heard from the bio, and sorry that we gave you a lot of detail there, but basically I spent the last 16 years at Seminole County Public Schools, and that's a fairly long haul for an education leader, but I like to see the impact of my work and the work of the people in the community. And you can only do that if you make a long-term commitment. So the board has given me a 3-year contract, but I hope to be here much longer. I don't aspire to run a big mega district. And as you can see, I don't move very often, and so I hope that this is the start of a very long engagement with all of you as community leaders. But again, I'm just so thrilled to be here. We had this set up perfectly so that all 5 school board members were going to join us. We had a workshop this morning, and there was a topic that it was a little time sensitive for the first day of school, and so they are still in session, and I slipped out quietly because I wanted to be sure to honor the obligation with all of you, and we'll see if they're able to join us before the end of the program. But I'm very excited to work with this board, and as a community, you've elected 5 leaders with different backgrounds and different skill sets, and they're really working together to talk about a lot of tough issues. And you know, the goal is always to have a board that works through issues and practices good governance. And I saw lots of evidence of that in the time that I was applying to come here. And we've already had 2 board meetings and a workshop this month. So it's been a very busy first month, but lots of great conversation happening. And so I feel very fortunate to be working for Chairman Choate and Vice Chair Spray and members Foreman, Messenger, and Tatum. And so we're off to a good start. I've spent much of the first 15 days trying to get to know as many employees as possible. And so in addition to the school support center right down the road, I've been out to Manatee to talk to our transportation and maintenance and construction teams who are very busy getting ready for August 10th, really August 2nd, which is when our teachers are formally back. And then also our professional support center, which is home to all of our curriculum teams. And those folks really never stop working. They've been training with teachers all summer long. And so, you know, one of my takeaways as I move into this role is there are a lot of very dedicated employees, a lot who have been around for 20 and 25 and 30 years, which is not really the narrative right now about public education. But I will tell you, there are a lot of long-timers among our 6,000 employees. And when I ask each of them, what's kept you here? It's all about kids. They are deeply committed to student safety and student success. And that's true from our team that's out responding to work orders, to classroom teachers. Last week I ran into a group of, we call them basically new teacher mentors. So they're the veteran teachers who are welcoming and supporting our teachers in their first 2 or 3 years of work. That group is incredibly committed because they know if they do a great job mentoring that group, this community is set for the next 2 generations. And so it's all about that long-term work and long-term impact. The other thing I've spent a lot of time doing is meeting with community groups, and we've had a really full calendar of lots of great partners coming in and introducing themselves and talking about their work. And my other big takeaway from the first 15 days is the depth of the community partnerships, particularly how groups are working together to achieve common interests is really unique. And I saw that right out the gate. My second day here, we had the Soarin' 4 event. That's a partnership with a lot of different groups involved, and MCR Health also sponsored that particular evening. The day after 4th of July, to have 2,700 children and their families show up to get literacy materials is incredibly powerful. And what I told that group afterward is, locally, we get into doing really good work, and sometimes we don't realize how significant it is. And at a time when a lot of districts and really regions are struggling with how do we engage families, Manatee County has figured that out already. And that's really exciting, and I think it's nationally unique. And so, again, as I get further into the work, I realize more and more each day how fortunate I am to be here, and a lot of great things are already underway. Externally, Manatee is regarded as an innovative school district. Superintendent Saunders brought in a lot of initiatives and was often at the front of the line to bring those in. And once upon a time, I sent a team from Seminole to look at the WAS Ed work that was underway already in Manatee County. And so just know that externally, Manatee is regarded as a very innovative place. And so we want to be sure that we're sustaining that innovation first and foremost, and then looking for opportunities, really to accelerate. So that's how I've really spent the first just about 3.5 weeks in Manatee County. And of course, operationally, we want to be sure that we're ready for teachers on August 2nd and that we're ready for students on August 10th. People are always interested in how is hiring going, again, because the narrative is the national teacher shortage. And it is a reality, but the team here in Manatee has done a great job, and I think we've held something like 25 job fairs, because you can do one and then celebrate whoever shows up, but one event isn't convenient for everybody. And so the team's been hosting events almost weekly. And so right now on the instructional side, we're sitting at right about 98% staffed. So we have some teaching vacancies out there, yes. And again, that's not my work in the first 15 days. That's the continued work of the team. But to be 98% staffed at this point is great. You never sit back and say, we're 100% staffed, we're done, because all of you that own businesses know people come and people go. And so you're always in that recruitment mode. When I interviewed for the superintendent job here, what I talked to the board members about is we often talk about recruitment and retention, but really we need to talk about retention and recruitment, because if we do a great job with retention, recruitment is a lot easier. And the other piece with teaching is it's one of those professions that it takes time to get really, really good at it. And so churn is not good from the perspective of building and sustaining systems. And so we want to be sure that our teachers are well taken care of. And again, I'm thrilled to come to a community that loves public education and is also willing to resource it, because not all communities are willing to do that. It's easy to say we love our schools. It's another thing to properly resource them. And so there's been the effort on salary and benefits with our teachers. We also need to be sure that they feel supported, that they feel the love of the community, really the way that I've felt it the first 15 days here. And so it's all about recognizing the work of our educators, valuing their work, supporting their efforts, and making sure that they're here for a long time. Yesterday, we had our new teacher orientation at Brayton River High School. We had about 350 teachers in attendance. That's an optional event. They don't have to come. They choose to come. They sign up. And so they're at work a week and a half earlier than they have to be. And about half of our new educators that attended are brand new teachers, and their day one of teaching is going to be August 10th. The other half are experienced teachers who are choosing to come to Manatee County. And that's really exciting too, and that's part of the dynamism in the community. So, as we look forward, I view the superintendency as doing the work necessary to make sure that we're a high-performing school district, because when the district is high-performing, it really becomes an economic driver in the community, and it increases the synergy around so many different systems in the community. And so, for example, one thing we want to be sure is that our schools are great so that when our economic development teams are trying to bring new businesses to the area, they can point to our schools and tell those executives, you're choosing a great place for your employees to raise their families, right? So that's on us to be sure that our academic performance is high so that businesses want to come here. And then, of course, those businesses are going to supply the high-wage jobs that are going to keep our graduates here in Manatee County. They can go get a degree at USF, UCF, UF, wherever they're going to go, but they know that they've got a place to come back to. One of the many things I've learned is there are lots and lots of Manatee High School graduates still in Manatee County. It's a really unique network of people. We want to keep that going now, and we want to have that network in place eventually at all of our high schools. And so that's all about, again, the strength of the school district, the economic development work, the jobs that go on, and then bringing those college graduates back to do great work in the community. And so, and that starts in pre-K and it runs all the way through high school graduation. I'm a big believer that when we hand out high school diplomas, it's not just about the 4 years of high school, it's the 13 years, it's the K through 12 and hopefully 14 years, hopefully pre-K and K through 12 that a student spends with us. And when we hand those diplomas out, we don't want them to just be a checklist of credits earned and tests passed, right? It should be more than just the state requirements. It's really about the skills that a student has acquired in our schools that they are then going to go out and use in college, in their career, and hopefully as a productive citizen in the community. So it's all of that working together. In terms of very short-term things we're going to be working on, safety is always the top priority, and every superintendent says that, but I'm talking about it to employees. And the message to parents is when you choose a Manatee County public school, it's not just your child's teacher that's keeping your students safe. It's all 6,000 employees who wear that badge. The board has invested both in the technology and in the staff training, and so we feel good about that, but we have to be vigilant every single day. The partnership with the sheriff's office is strong, and it will stay that way. Our guardians that are in our schools are incredibly qualified and talented people. They're getting great training. The district leadership team in our safety department is second to none, and so it's really a focus, that safety piece. The other thing I'm talking to our educators about is literacy, that we have to focus every single day on literacy. And so that means that students have to be reading and writing and speaking and listening. And the speaking and listening often gets lost because it's not assessed on the state test, right? And the old, what gets measured gets done. That's true, but we don't formally assess speaking and listening. But if you're preparing kids for a meaningful diploma, you're teaching speaking and listening because it's part of that communication skill that's vital for success down the road. So I'm talking with all educators about the fact that it doesn't matter what their title is or what they teach or the age. The expectation is every single day we're reading and writing and we're purposefully listening and speaking. And if we do that, those reading scores will improve, and along with it, other scores get better too. Again, there's a lot of focus here on STEM and engineering, and that's all great. Our science scores will go up at the same time our reading scores will go up, because the hardest part of the science assessments is the complexity of the text that's on the assessment. So the better we do with reading, writing, speaking, and listening, the better those reading and science scores will get, and the more our kids will be able to access really complex interdisciplinary STEM work, the easier it will be to get into physics and computer science and engineering. So the literacy piece is critical, and again, the good news is the community partnerships are in place to support literacy at home, and we just have to keep working the science of reading and the instructional strategies that the research tells us work best with students. And so that's about when we retain our faculty and they get better at doing that, again, those scores improve. And the speaking and listening, again, is so important because when we do that, kids become better thinkers, which means it's easier to handle critical reading and do a better job at the writing. So broadly, that's what we'll be working on this year, and I appreciate, again, all of your welcome, and look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. Now we'll have questions from the audience. So if you do have a question, please come to the microphone in the center of the room. We'll start the first question for the superintendent. How are you going to lead your staff and your leadership with the different changes that are going on the state level with education?
So I'll tell you the same thing I told the board in my interview. It doesn't matter what we personally think about the legislative agenda, the new laws, the new state. There's between July and August, I think right around 50 new State Board of Education rules that are in development and that will ultimately be passed. Our job is to follow the law and to implement. And so we're going to do that. And my message to teachers is we'll give you the guidance, ask your questions, follow it, and then when there are unintended consequences, my job is to bring that to the board, and then the board has a legislative agenda, and if they see something that needs to be tweaked or feedback to be given, that's for those conversations with the local legislative delegation, with the DOE staff, but our job is to follow the law. And so that's what we have to do, again, regardless of how people feel about issues personally. Again, I think the key is that regardless of what the policy decisions are, that we're supporting our educators and our principals to make those adjustments. And I talked a lot about teachers, but principals are critical to the long-term success of the district. And the principalship is harder than ever. So we've really got to take care of our principals. So when you see them, thank them for what they do, ask them what they need, because a strong principal core is key to that long-term success as a school district.
You stay right there.
Okay, and now they ask and I answer. All right, I got the format now. All right.
Hi, my name is Dr. Jim Whitman. I'm a Tiger Bay member. Welcome to Manatee County.
Thank you.
As a former high school debater, I appreciate your being here. I'm a college graduate, and I recently went on to the Manatee County Education website. I couldn't find anything about summer programs. Do we have summer school in Manatee County? We do.
We do. There are lots of summer programs in place. That's great feedback on the website, so we'll take that back and take a look.
Thank you.
Mr. Barber's already nodding. So that's great. That's great. We'll take that as an action item. Actually, on Tuesday night at our last board meeting, Mr. Barber's good news moment. There's every school board meeting, there's a good news moment about awesome stuff that's happening beyond just regular instruction. Mr. Barber highlighted some of this summer arts programs that were in place. And of course, school districts don't regularly get summer funding because we're funded on the 10-month, 180-day calendar year, but districts receive some extra grant funding to do both academic and enrichment summer work. So this summer, there were some additional camps offered, and I think we learned a lot from those camps. I think we got great feedback from parents and students, and so now I know they're funded next summer, and then we'll start looking for how we keep that work going. But thank you for the website.
Well, I appreciate knowing that, and I presume that it's, such information is available in the schools themselves. You mentioned enrichment, and of course there's also remedial, which can help people from being held back, and also nutritional. I know you know all of this stuff, but as a beneficiary of summer programs in the past myself, I'm so glad to hear that we're doing that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Superintendent Wysong, I'm Kevin, Tiger Bay Manatee. I'm asking for a friend. How is the district moving forward in chartering the Bradenton Classical Academy?
Thank you for that question. My understanding is that the application has been received. The staff review is underway. I've asked that that get the attention that it deserves. And then as soon as the staff team that is charged with that review is done, they'll bring their findings to me and we'll move it along.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Liv Coleman, and I live in East County, but I teach up at the University of Tampa in political science, and we've been lucky to have many excellent Manatee Public School graduates there. And I want to thank you so much for coming to Manatee and investing your time and your talents here, especially at a time public education is under so much stress and strain. And I was curious even though you've only been here 15 days on the job, what your outlook is for HB1 and its impact on Manatee County, which was the universal voucher bill, and any particular ways that the district can mitigate or manage the difficulties in planning and budgeting when the money follows the students out the door.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. Thank you. And it's on my list of things to talk about. And I'm as we all get to know each other better, I'm not real great at brevity. So I knew I was out of time when Ms. Bailey stood up. But at any rate, yeah, obviously competition and choice is a tremendous challenge. It's also a great opportunity. And anytime you're in a state that's doing a lot of experimentation on any policy issue, you're going to have your growing pains. Ultimately, I think that charter schools, vouchers, the growth of home education, all of these pieces does compel us to innovate and to offer more options. And I think if you take a broader view of public education, as school districts, we do have to really sit back and say, what are parents looking for, and how do we do that? So an example of that is, if you look over the last 10 or 15 years, there are a lot more K through 8 public schools now, than there used to be. And one of the attractive elements of the K-8 model is that if you're a parent with a student in elementary and a student in middle, you're juggling 2 start times, 2 end times, 2 sets of communications. I have a 10-year-old son, and just the amount of communication from one school as a parent is a lot to deal with, but then you get 2 of those, and then of course you meet parents that are juggling all 3 levels, right? And it's a lot. So that notion of a K through 8 environment, I think you've seen more districts doing those. And we're seeing charters do them too. So I think that's an example of really listening to what parents want and then reacting to it. I think, as I look at Manatee and other districts that are going to have to innovate because of HB1, one of the things we're going to have to look at is high school and the size of high schools, right? And once upon a time, you built big high schools with lots of kids and the advantage of a big high school. I went to a large public high school in Dade County, is that you get a lot more activities, a lot more athletics, a lot more choices, but there are students who are more successful in smaller environments, and we've seen that. And so in public education, are we going to vary those school sizes over time, or is that going to be something that parents who want that take a voucher and go to a private school? So I think the whole HB1 outlook is just going to force us to be more innovative. I think the second part of that question, with budget and funding impact, is a little bit to be determined. And of course, one of the big challenges in public education is the legislature meets every year and sets the budget, and then you have to adjust your sales based on, what's happening there. And so we're going to have to see long-term whether this proposition that ultimately vouchers and funding are not going to impact public schools, whether that's true or not. I do know this. My goal is going to be that your district-operated Manatee County Public School is a compelling choice, and we'll respect parents who want to make a different choice, but we're going to fight for that enrollment, and we're going to do it by saying we have the best product in town.
Karen Holbrook, University of South Florida. You've answered part of my question anyway, but I'm going to ask it just the same. I also want to commend you and thank you for recognizing the innovation and all of the things that happened in the previous administration. This is an amazing school district, and we've all loved partnering with it. So thank you for that, and thank you for coming on and following on that. But taking up from that, what kinds of things do you bring from Seminole County? Initiatives, ideas, and things that you think will take us to the next level. There must be something. You mentioned literacy, and you've mentioned some other things, but I'm sure there's something wonderful that you're thinking about, so thank you.
So thank you, Dr. Holbrook. And, one of the attractive parts about coming to Manatee is the strong partnerships, especially between the district and post-secondary, and that's a common value shared with Seminole. Seminole and Manatee have a lot in common, not geographically, but in terms of similar values, similar partnerships. We've actually had some personnel change places, so between Seminole and Manatee. So the communities are similar with the exception of the water. Part of my work in Seminole was running an initiative called Education Pathways for one of our superintendents. It was branded E-Pathways. Seminole was once upon a time a very academic university prep school district, but communities change. And one of the superintendents I worked for said it's time for us to get really serious about career and technical education. And at that point, Manatee was far ahead. So I was charged with kind of getting that going, bringing in the industry certifications and the programming. And something that I'm personally very passionate about is, although career and tech ed is a grade 6 through 12 structure within the law, you want to get all of that in K through 5. And so in Seminole, we had students learning physics on mobile science labs, converted school buses that would go to the elementary schools. That started in 4th grade. And why you do that is if you teach kids that physics is really exciting and not this big, scary, advanced science discipline, they're ready to go by the time they get to high school. We did the same thing with computer science. And so what I'm going to be looking for in Manatee, because I don't believe you just pick up something in one community and move it to another, what I'm going to be looking for is what are the untapped opportunities? What are the under-enrolled advanced academic courses? And then how do we demystify that for students? How do we bring that kind of high school and college curriculum down and start teaching kids that this is really exciting stuff? And so having not yet gotten to see instruction in Manatee, and I have had some conversation with high school students already, but as I'm learning over the next 2 or 3 months, I think some of that will start to illuminate. But as I said, Dr. Holbrook, when I was doing my initial remarks, one thing that's really important is that we sustain all of that innovation work that's already underway. Because often what happens in school districts is you start something really cool, you get a grant, you do it for 2 or 3 years, the funding runs out, and then you just tell the teachers, go with it until it all breaks, right? And that's not good for kids. And so we've got to be sure we can sustain the work that's underway and then kind of add those pieces where maybe there's opportunities to increase access.
Thank you. Let me add one really quick thing. You may know of Joseph Aglio in Massachusetts, who started AI in the K through 12 programs, but not in the K through 12 programs, in the 1 through 3 programs. And they've even had the World Congress of Artificial Intelligence there. Where does that fit in our district?
Yeah, that's a great question, and AI is changing daily right now, and it's tough because when ChatGPT first came out, the immediate reaction was lock it down. We have to like insulate district networks and all of that. But then you have to have the conversation about what responsible use looks like, right? And how do we, and this is true with cell phones, with social media and everything else, how do we teach students to interact with that technology and scaffold it just like we do reading and math and all the other traditional disciplines? And of course, those are very important parent conversations too, right? Because when you start getting into social media and technology and cell phones and everything else, you're going to have the parent and family component to that. So I really think that's a conversation that the community has to have about what's the right way to be working on responsible use of technology with students. Thank you.
Good morning, Superintendent. Welcome to Manatee County. My name is Tal Sadiq. I'm a joining member of Manatee Tiger Bay. The question I wanted to ask you is, where do you believe that preparation for trade schools, vocational programs, apprenticeships, where does that fit in with your overall strategy for where you want to take Manatee County schools?
Yeah, great question. And again, I'm honored that I got to do some of that work in my former district. And again, I will tell you that Manatee County is highly regarded for MTC. When I first entered the career and tech world as a district administrator, I'm a social studies teacher. I'm an academic guy by training, but then was tasked with moving over to the career and tech side. And so the rules are different. It's a completely different paradigm. And people said, on the secondary side, you meet this person, and on the post-secondary side, you meet this guy named Doug Wagner in Manatee. He really is well-known statewide for that work. So Manatee is in a good place already, and I think some of the recent innovations, the new aviation maintenance partnership, is awesome. Again, I think the key is we've got to talk to kids earlier and earlier about their options. And often what happens in strong school districts like Manatee is you've got a lot of arts options, you've got great academics, you've got great athletics, and often by 6th or 7th grade, kids are, they've found a favorite activity already and they're going to run with it. And so you've got to be showing kids earlier and earlier what those career options really are. And then I think at the high school level, we've got to make sure that all that great programming at the technical colleges is accessible to high school students. Again, I think a lot of great work has been done here, and so I have a lot more to learn. And then again, how do we incrementally make it a little bit stronger?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Please give him a round of Thank you again, Superintendent Wysong. One thing in Manatee County, we are so supportive of education, partnership, community, families. We welcome you to Manatee County, and it was exciting to hear you talk about the innovation and also give the flowers where flowers are due. So we already knew we had a great district and we have great community. Just the dive into reading my horns over here, those are partners, and the universities and our state colleges and what we're doing on the tech, and we're just ready to move forward. We've been fighting this reading challenge, and I know with what you guys were an A district over there where you come from, and we are going to be looking for the day where we're going to have the biggest party ever when Manatee County slides into that 8th district. We thank you so much for coming. Please give them another round of applause.